Right, I just want us to now get into the interview that is with regards, of course, with the police service. And with me in studio is Enoch Makanga. He is the security expert and national chairman of Protective and Safety Association of Kenya, PROSAC. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you.
I want us to just start off, of course, just for people to understand, how can you differentiate between the GSU, the National Police Service, and the Administration Police?
From the word go, the National Police Service merged with the two forces, that is the Kenya Police and the Administration Police, came together. And I remember I was in that reforms committee, and we recommended that we were having a problem where every force was trying to show its powers and defeating the purpose of the other. So we recommended to the former Inspector General of Police and of course the government that there was need for the government to have the two come together under one command. And I think the recommendation went on well, and I think it is working. Then the GSU is just a department within the police, like police air wing, like any other formation. Like Kenya Police College, Kiganjo being a formation, then the GSU is just a formation, which of course has a commandant, and they have a training school, and their work is more practical. They get into where things are very hot. You don't bring them into the normal public. Like if you have a problem, like problems we're having in Barakoi, to have the right guys to get on the ground, because they are trained on such a type of terrain. Then the APs, the Administration Police, of course, they are more on the ground. When you get them there with the chief, the assistant chief, at that level, where if a member of the public has a problem with the chief, he's able to get assistance from the Administration Police. But at the end of the day, as we stand, it stands right now, all police officers in Administration Police, and they report to the officer in charge of the police station. So the chain of command comes all the way up to the IG.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, before we get into serious issues, let's talk about, of course, the reputation of police in the country.
Yeah.
There's such a negative perception surrounding law enforcement, even with the citizens.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case, and what can be done to change that perception?
This all revolves on the first step of engaging a human being, recruitment. Me, when I joined the police in 1988, I think I'm my conscience is very clear. I didn't bribe anybody. I just went to the field, and I had a Division 2, and I got a job, and I went to Police College Kiganjo. And I really had the passion to really work for the service. Unfortunately, that I left early, but I really had the passion. And the people that we were with, Mr. Bruno Shosio, now the commandant at Kenya Police College, these are the guys we trained with, people who really had the passion of joining the police. But now, where there is a problem here is we have not been able to streamline the issue of recruitment, where we are getting now wrong people getting into the police. You'll find that somebody joined the police with the perception that I want to join traffic to make money, I want to join that department, that he has different version. He's not joining the police because he wants to serve the public. The police work is actually like preaching. It's like a pastor, because you can't be a pastor or you can't be a sheikh unless you are called to do that job. So the same thing applies to the National Police Service. You cannot work in the National Police Service unless you have a calling. So the problem that the National Police Service has, and this one they might take it by its own, is that wrong people have ended up into the system. Right. And these are the people that are a few people that are trying to tarnish the name of the police, doing things that are not ethical. Like, here's what happened. You reported about some CID officers robbing a member of the public. Right. So when members of the public see such a type of things, where you are expecting a police officer to help you, but it's the same person who is trying to rob you, definitely that reputation gets into a very critical situation.
Right.
Yes, and that's why we are saying that members of the public, when they see things that are how things are happening, they really wonder whether are we having the right people in the National Police Service, or what type of people are we having. But generally, we cannot blame everybody. I'm very sure, even if the IG is seeing me right now on national television,
right,
he knows that we only have a few airports who've been able to get into national service. And I think with the leadership of Mr. Koome, I think these guys will be rooted out.
But you've talked about, of course, if someone is not really, let's say, passionate to be in that particular role and they tarnish the reputation, what can actually be done in that case? Is there some sort of discipline that should be done right from the training school?
The training, I want to congratulate, first of all, the gentlemen who have graduated, ladies and gentlemen who have graduated at Kiganjo, today at GSU. I mean, congratulations. But now when they get out, they will find now the other guys, the road and airports, who are able to tell them now what you are taught at that police college or at Kiganjo, that remained there. So here you have to do what we do outside here. So what's required here is a framework of management. In HR, we normally say that you get somebody on board, you recruit somebody on board, then you induct him on what he's supposed to do. Then from there you have a management, performance management practice, where these guys are monitored, and if somebody makes a mistake, is dealt with in line with the normal HR process. Because you can't again victimize. You have to give somebody a chance to explain what went wrong. Unlike the former, when we had the former police force, where they could actually plant mistake on you and you are thrown out of the National Police Service. But right now, I think it's just a question of making sure that the officers are properly managed, they are properly mentored. And here we're talking about, for example, if you have done law, right, and you join the National Police Service, you take anywhere that degree will be able to help the National Police Service. Right. But if you take me like a lawyer, you take me to be the OCS Mandera, honestly, it means my education is misplaced. Like I've been in US, and what the FBI normally do is that if you've done medical, you're taken to forensics. Yeah. If you've done law, you're taken to the court. If you've done engineering, you're taken to their police air wing. So that everybody is actually where he's supposed to be. If you've done music, you're taken to police band. But now here comes a situation where you find some of these officers are misplaced. You've gone to school, you have a degree, you have masters, and you are taken to a wrong place. So this guy gets frustrated, and at the end of the day, he won't serve the police as needed.
Now, just before we get to now the police reforms, let's talk about extrajudicial killing, such a big issue in the country, of course. Is it on crisis level already? I don't think it's on crisis level. I think Mr. Koome is very clear that if you make a mistake, you carry your own cross. And the problem that we've had, as I've said, we've had few officers who have actually gone overboard. And I'm happy that the government came up with the very clear institutions. That is the Independent Police Oversight Authority, and they have a commission. So what happens is that if you go overboard, these guys will deal with you accordingly. Within the Internal Affairs Unit, we deal with the complaints from within the National Police Service. So as we speak right now, I think some good effort has been done. It's not as where we were. The only problem is that some of the reforms we've had, like the Curricular Commission, we've had a good number of commissions being set up to come up with recommendations about the National Police Service. Where the problem is that there is no framework on how these recommendations will be implemented. You know, that you can come up with a very fantastic recommendation of what you want to be done. The question is, who will do it? By when? That if that is put in place, we have a very clear plan on these are the recommendations we are recommending for the National Police Service, and so and so will do what. We have a very clear time frame. I think that will work out very well. Let's talk about the uniform. What was wrong with the former uniform? That uniform was fantastic. You can't compare it with Uganda, you can't compare it with Tanzania, I've gone to so many African countries. But somebody just sat in the boardroom and said he wants to change this uniform to blue. A very useless uniform that I don't think is friendly. People look at it, once it wears out, it looks very bad. I mean, there are things that you find people make decisions that at the end of the day, they don't actually consult stakeholders. Stakeholders are the police officers. Right. When it comes to the recommendations that you are talking about, then who is supposed to be implementing it? If it's not being implemented, who is supposed to do it?
You see, at the end of the day, when the government comes up with we have now a team that is led by Justice Maraga. that has been appointed by the president to look into the welfare of the police and of course the whole National Police Service. The question is, they will come up with recommendations. Let's do this, let's do. The question is, they must come up with clear outlines on when, by who, so that at the end of the day, the buck stops with somebody. But leaving just open and saying that we had a commission, then they hand over the report to the president. The question is, after 5 years, we are back to the same problem, where maybe the next government comes and says again another commission. We had so many commissions. Yeah.
Right. So in terms of the pledges that the president has made, one of them being comprehensive health insurance for the families of the police officers, how does this improve the lives of police, and will it actually be implemented?
This one, I think the president is, I want to say thank you, the president, for actually being very human to police officers. I think police officers have really suffered. I've been one of them. I served in the police at Kenya Police College. I was in Hola Police Station. I've been in Nairobi here. I worked with DCI. I was a former bomb expert at CID headquarters. I can tell you, police officers go into a lot of stress. In fact, some of the problems that are coming because of the problems that come when you get sick. You get sick and you can't get attention. Right. You get sick in line with your work, because this work is very risky. Somebody could get a problem in Mandera, could get a problem everywhere. You require special medical attention. The truth of the matter is, police require serious medical attention. That if somebody is sick, the wife is sick. You see, if your wife is sick, your child is sick, and you are not given attention, the truth of the matter is, you will not work. You are stressed. So police must be given clear medical attention, and I'm happy that we are setting up, the government is setting up a hospital for police, like the army. You know, the army have the memorial hospital at Bakadi, where if any army officer is sick, and they've got specialists, they brought on board specialists. So if the police are able to again bring specialists on board, people are taken to Kiganjo as doctors, they are taken to Kiganjo as clinical officers, as nurses, and they are posted to that hospital. I think this will improve the life of police officers, and the issue of medical for police officers will be something of the past. Because just imagine a police officer who has been shot, and maybe the spinal cord has been injured. That means you'll be sitting in the house. I know police officers who have been injured in line of their work, and they stay there until now. You are told you are no longer required. Now, I was required when I was healthy. Now I'm not healthy, I'm not required. Right. So these are some of the issues that they are toothing, and they must be looked into. I'm happy that the president has picked up very fast, but now it's a question of now implementing that insurance policy, and then making sure that these guys get, officers get proper medical attention. And of course, if you are injured, you are given special treatment, and you go back to your work.
What about in terms of housing, status of housing for police officers? How is it at this particular point, and are there any reforms to make it better for them?
When I was serving, 1989 up to 90s, we used to stay within the police lines, where you could be able to stay with the others, and basically there were a few houses. There were fewer houses than the officers, and you could find even a married person sharing a room with a married person, which was ethically very wrong. I remember when I went to Hola police station my first time in 1990, I was given a room to share with somebody who was married. I mean, it really traumatized me. I felt very bad, and there's nothing I could do, because the guy in charge of giving, I says, that's the house that is there, and you either live there or but right now, as we stand, I think officers are given some house allowance, and they are actually, they stay outside the police line, and they pay rent like other people. The good thing with that is that you also understand what normal members of the public go through when it comes to paying rent. But the other problem is, you are a member of the National Police Service. I think the president coming up with the housing, proper housing project for police, that's the best idea that has ever come up. Because at the end of the day, if a police officer has a very good house, and his family, this guy will work, he'll work well, very well. But now these guys are exposed. People know you as a police officer. You stay somewhere in a rented house. People know you as a police officer, and that does not work well as far as global policing is concerned.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about, I mean, finally, when a police, retires, what happens? Are they neglected? Because they have been, of course, accused at some point of joining crime. Yeah. Is that true?
Not really. I'm a member of the National Retired Police Officers Association, and we came together as retired police officers. We are very many. We are a very good number. And the question is, those guys are neglected, properly neglected. And you know, when you get out, first of all, you have no medical cover. So that means that if you get sick when you leave the National Police Service, you are in problems. Number two, some of them, like I myself, I'm one of the best trained bomb experts. I was trained without hurry. We were trained when terrorism was not a very big issue. And the question is, how can the government use my skill after we leave the National Police Service?
Right.
And the question of how these officers are utilized has been a really big problem, because like we have an office at Vigilance House that caters for all the retired police officers, and they normally meet. But the question is, these officers' retirement is somebody being given like 3,000, 5,000 when you retire monthly. What is that? That cannot be able to help you. So in the actual thing, what we are doing is we are trying to tell the police that they need to, the government needs to actually look at when an officer retires, let's have something like what the army guys are getting. You know, army guys get serious money. When you leave, you are being paid like around 50,000. Good money that your life can move on till you die. But I can tell you for free that most officers are dying when they leave the National Police Service, because one, they are not actually taken through what we call retirement package, where you are taken through. You're told now you are being carried in a vehicle. Now you are going to stay alone. So there are things that have really affected those guys who retired, and most of them are dying simply because of medical cover. Number two, they are dying because they have got expertise. That expertise is being wasted. So, like what happens in other countries, I think let the government make use of the officers who retired. Like now, let's look at what's happening in Elgeyo Marakwet, what's happening in Mandera. We have police officers who retired. These guys can be used to be able to help the National Police Service in crime reduction in those particular areas. You don't require money. These guys are already trained. It's just a question of being given facilitation, and these guys are able to help the police officers on the ground. But now you walk in a police station, introduce yourself that you are a retired police officer, and you find a whole OCS telling you, yes, you retired, and we don't need you here. And you just come and say hi to them. That notion, I think, is the one that should stop, so that people that even them, they will one day retire and come outside to be able to face the same music.
Is there a gap between police and judiciary? Who is the weak link in fighting crime between the two?
Everybody has a role to play. The judiciary has a role to play. The police have a role to play. Police do their work, but now I think where we've had a problem is the issue of DTP. The prosecution Northern Reaches department, where you find now police do their work, but at the end of the day now they have to give it to somebody else to come and confirm that there's a case to answer. Then from there they are told no. So the whole thing keeps on revolving. Now when you come to crime, I can tell you, we've seen people getting into crime, committing a crime, and then from there, because there is no sufficient evidence to charge them, what happens? The guy goes back to crime. He tells you, I'll be given a bond, I'll come out, and I go back to what I've been doing. Now, this frustrates the work of the National Police Service, because police will do their work, get hold of somebody, but now here comes a situation where now the file has to be taken to DTB. These guys have to confirm, Director of Prosecution has to confirm that there's a case to answer. Then from there, you will say there's no case to answer. Remember, somebody is in the police cell, and again there's that rule that 24 hours somebody must be released. So these are some of the challenges the National Police normally have, because they have a watertight case, they take it there, these guys say no. Then from there now you find the case it does not go to court, it's still hanging there, or it goes to court and we are told there's no sufficient evidence. Yeah.
Finally then, what is your final comment, with regard to the police situation in this country?
I think the president has appointed the commission to be able to come up with recommendation. There are a lot of things that I look at from where I sit, having been one of the police officers and having served 15 years. And I really understand. I know where these guys are. They are feeling the pinch. First, they must look at the issue of recruitment. They make sure that it is properly streamlined, and at no time wrong people are getting into the National Police Service. Number two, they are taken to police colleges. Police colleges have responsibilities of training these officers like what has been done. Their job ends when these guys pass out. So they must be taken where they belong. We call it in HR because I'm an HR person, talent, putting somebody where he belongs. If that is actually looked at in the National Police Service, it will actually increase the productivity of police officers. Then number three, these officers must be monitored through key performance indicators. Guys must be given clear guidelines on what they're supposed to do. And then officers who are at level of the OCS, OSBD must be taken through leadership and management skills. This is a new concept that even us in the private sector we are applying. You must train your manager on how to lead. There's a difference between leadership and management. These guys have got problems. When there are problems, they must be listened to. You've seen so many officers going on social media, complaining that, you know, I'm being harassed, I'm a woman police officer, I'm being harassed. It's the question of these officers, senior officers, being taken through leadership and management, things that revolve on managing human beings, understanding the problem of human beings. When a lady tells you she's sick, she can't work. Me, I've learned leadership. I know what this lady understands. You are able to release this person. So unless these officers are properly managed with a human face, you lead with a human face, the problems will continue happening. And then finally, the issue of guys being released. Let the police not release anybody who has been trained. The government has spent money and just think it's very easy again to train somebody to come on board. I would rather they do what we call, they try to rectify this person, take him back to track, rehabilitate this person, and use him. Then lastly, the officers who leave the National Police Service, the National Retired Police Officers Association, I think that's a high time that the government can use these officers who are very energetic. They are still energetic. Some of them left at 50, 55. These guys can be used very, very effectively in some of the problems that the CS professor is having within those hot areas. Like these guys can be redeployed. It's easy to deploy an ex-police officer to be a reservist than getting a new person who has to be trained on the use of the gun and where the gun now becomes a problem or it's risky for him having the gun. So